So right there in the little driveway, that's where the police had found me. They said a woman unresponsive, but was breathing, and I've been a gunshot wound to the face. He had forced me out of our house and had put me in his truck and drove down the street. And that's all I really remember. My name is Melody Meganson. I was shot by my baby dad, and I live with a bullet in my brain. I met my baby's father walking down the street, asking for directions. We met when I first moved down here, and I got pregnant fairly quickly, about a month and a half after I met him. But we were just in a relationship, seeing each other sometimes, going through the pregnancy. Then about a month and a half before he shot me, we moved in together. And a couple days after we moved in together, I had our son. Looking back, I realized we didn't really know each other. I didn't really know him. We just kind of went too fast in the relationship. He owned his own business, and he kind of swayed me and think like he was like a businessman, and he was professional. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't want the baby. I didn't think it was the right time in my life, but I wanted a family. I was trying to do the right thing, be a family for my children and stuff that I never really had. So I tried to stay in the relationship. He just started acting different, started being really controlling, wanting to know where I'm at, who I'm with, what I wear, and stuff like that. I realized the relationship wasn't gonna work out. It wasn't what I thought it was. I was trying to make moves to leave the situation, and I think he figured that out. He wanted to go on a date out of nowhere. And when he told me about the date, he said he wanted to go hiking. And I told my cousin, I was like, he wanted to go hiking. And she was like, he wants to go hiking? I think that the plan was he was gonna shoot me then and leave me in the woods. So he had put his hands on me a week prior for the first time. He never put his hands on me, no signs of him putting his hands on me or nothing, ever. Then I think he found out I was gonna leave, and he was scared because he was out on bond for capital murder, facing the death penalty. So my mom had found out that he put his hands on me and threatened to call the police. And I made the mistake of telling her to stay out of it. I got this. And unfortunately, a week later, I was shot. On May 18th, 2019, he wanted me home at 9 o'clock. It was like 9:05. I'm not from here, so I had to use my GPS. He was calling me. I'm like, I'm down the street. When I get home, he's not there. So I'm calling him like, you wanted me to come home, where you at? But he turned his phone off. He shows up, I don't know what time it was, but in the middle of the night. And he smelled of alcohol, like he was drunk. And he punched me on my side and grabbed me. And he put his gun to my side and said, get in the truck. The children were with me. I don't go anywhere without my children, especially my newborn son. He was only 6 weeks old, and I have a 2-year-old. Last thing I remember is him forcing me in the car at gunpoint and backing the truck up and going down the street and going under that bridge, and then it's just blank.
I didn't know that she was shot for like 4 days. She was like a Jane Doe in the hospital. What happened is somebody called me and I didn't even know who it was. And they said that Melody was shot. And actually at first I didn't believe it. You know, I was like, no way, somebody's playing a prank on me or something, you know. But then I was wondering why Melody wasn't answering her phone, so it started clicking that something was wrong. Then they're trying to figure her out with her tattoos, like on Facebook and stuff like that, and they couldn't find her that way, and she doesn't have a criminal record. And how they actually found out, I believe, was in the truck where he kidnapped her and put her in. They found a piece of paper in the glove box that had Melody's name on it after the police, they impounded the vehicle. And then that's when they found out what her name was. First, I dealt with the doctors. They told me she was shot. It was really bad. I got the number to the police department. The Detective Howard is his name. I spoke with him and he told me that he didn't know for sure whether my daughter was going to make it or not. I said, well, where's her kids? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, she has 2 kids. And I said, she just had a baby. You know, where are my grandkids? And I said, the first thing that came out of my mouth was John Neely. I said, he's the one that did this to my daughter because he beat her up a week before he shot her. And she was trying to leave the situation. Did an Amber Alert, or they got a hold of John Neely and told him, you need to bring the kids in right now. Where are they? So I don't honestly know how they ended up at the fire department. I don't know how they got there, but somebody dropped them off outside of the fire department. And they have no cameras. I couldn't fly down right away. I had to figure out a plane ticket. I'm on disability, so I had to ask my friends, my family, everybody tried to help me. I had to wait for people to get paid. So it took me like 3 days to get out there. I'm really trying not to cry. I try not to talk about it much because it just upsets me really bad. I was just laying there with all these wires, all these tubes. She had a trach, she couldn't breathe on her own. It was really bad. I didn't know whether she was brain dead. They couldn't really tell me. It was just more like it's a waiting game. The bullets in her brain. She was leaking spinal fluid out of her ear. She was fed through a tube. She had to have a trach to help her breathe for months. She had her mouth wired shut because of the damage in her right side of her face. And she was just laying there, and I grabbed her hand, and her dad grabbed her other hand, and I said, Melody, I'm here. And I said, if you can hear me, just squeeze my hand. And she did. So I was just like so elated, but then, you know, they're telling me, oh, that could just be from the brain, she'll be moving, you know, her like legs and stuff. But they had her arms strapped down so she couldn't pull anything out. But when she grabbed my hand, I said, okay, she's there.
So when a brain has been injured, whether it be by mechanical force or a penetrating injury such as a gunshot wound, there are multiple ways that the brain gets injured. One is just strict mechanical forces, so the brain having a shear effect and one part of the brain staying still while the other is having a forceful impact and movement. There can be injury to blood vessels and key structures within the brain itself that has now been injured, and the integrity of the structure is disrupted, which causes injury. And then you can also have the force causing essentially a shock wave through the brain that also can cause further injury. Chances of survival after a penetrating injury to the brain, such as a gunshot wound, is very low.
The swelling of her eyes started to, you know, subside, and she'd start opening up her eyes. And then I asked her if she could see me, and I said, if you can, try to move your hand or your thumb. And so she moved her thumb, so I knew that she can hear me and see me. I cried. I just sat there and cried and held her, but she couldn't speak, and she doesn't know what's really going on at the time. I said, "You've been shot, honey. You're in the hospital. You're gonna make it. You're gonna be okay. You're strong." And she couldn't speak for like 2 months. I believe her mouth was wired shut. So we did like hand signals.
When I woke up in the hospital, I was kind of in a daze. I didn't really know what was going on. I had tubes out my neck. My arms were tied down to the bed. And the sad part is when I first woke up, I wanted to call him, not realizing he was the one who shot me until I realized, because my mom and dad were there, my whole family and stuff, and they were like, "He shot you, he shot you, he shot you." The moment I realized that happened, I didn't want to believe it for a while. For a couple months, I didn't want to believe that the person I loved did that to me. I just had his child. And when I did, it turned into anger. Like, how could you do this to me? I was shot with the 4.5 in my face, and the bullet went into my brain. There's no exit wound, so they can't remove it. So my face on the right side is paralyzed now. I'm deaf on this ear, and I have a plate in my head, on the right side of my head. I have a gold weight in my eyelids so I can close my eye all the way when I sleep. And a VP shunt that drains my brain fluid that keeps me alive. I have to keep that the rest of my life. Because of the gunshot wound, I have a traumatic brain injury, which is a TBI. So I get frustrated really easily and get angry a lot. It's gotten better, but I'm still working on it. And then on top of that, I have seizures now. So it's hard to try to process and deal with, but I'm learning on coping mechanisms and trying to relearn how to do a lot. I had to relearn how to walk, speak. You gotta share. They made me take parenting classes, domestic violence classes, do a psychological evaluation, have stable and safe housing, and take drug screens. Draw like that. What is that? Is that train? Having to fight for my children while going through the recovery process was a challenge, and I felt like it was unfair as a victim to have my kids took and then having to fight for them like that. I understand at first for medical reasons, but after that, when I got letters from my doctors, letters from the detective stating that I was shot, I was a victim, and still having to go through that process was hard. I just got my case closed 2 years later after being shot. And I'm grateful for that I have my babies, because they're what kept me alive. But it was hard. It was a challenge having to limp into classes after a 10-hour surgery, trying to get my babies back, and still it wasn't good enough. My oldest boy was afraid of me when I first was shot. My youngest boy didn't know who I was, and it broke my heart. I felt like it was stolen from me a lot. I didn't get to see his first foods, first crawl, first rollover, first walk, first birthday, because he was just 6 weeks old when I was shot. And that's stuff I can't get back. It was really hard to heal without my children. I wanted to give up a lot. Like, why did I survive? I used to wish I would have died that night, to be honest with you. I don't feel like that today. I love my life today. It's a blessing. God's kept me here for a reason, and I plan on fulfilling that reason. It had made me want to cry when I'd first seen that the doctors didn't think I was gonna survive. That it was that serious. Because I don't remember that night very well. When I read the police report and saying that, it made me thank God that I'm still here, because a lot of people don't make it. I try to emphasize on the part he wasn't beating me up every day, that it was really mostly the controllingness. There's mental, emotional, and physical abuse. And just because it's not physical does not mean it's not abuse. And people need to pay attention to that, because I made the mistake of not to. He's not putting his hands on me, it's not abuse. I'm okay. They're just getting an argument, not realizing that it's bigger than that. It made me feel like they don't care about poor young black women, to be honest with you. I feel like if I was somebody else, that it would have got more attention, would have got more time. I categorize it as a miracle. Everyone tells me that. Doctors tell me that. I should not have survived, period. I got a 4 or 5 in my brain, walking around living, because they can't remove it. It's too dangerous to remove. But I got all my functions. I could be worse, so I'm definitely blessed, a miracle. God's got a purpose for me, and he's not done with me yet. Until I fulfill that purpose, then it wasn't my time to go. And my babies. I love my babies. But most important, I don't know what the purpose is yet, but it's something, because people don't survive a bullet to the brain. So I'm just grateful that he picked me.